Hey guys, this is Faster U4 brought to you by FitLab, Tailwind Nutrition, Biomaxa and Capital Cycles. If you're a cyclist, you want to go faster? Then let's giddy up. Hey guys, welcome back to Fast U4 by FitLab, Tailwind Nutrition, Biomaxa and Capital Cycles. Right, so bike racing. On the weekend, on Saturday, this was a longie. This is a long, really interesting race in one of the most picturesque parts of Wellington, I think, and it was really great. It went really, really well. I did okay. I'll tell you how it went and what I learnt in the PNP series, Summer Series race number 2. I'll do a deep dive into a little bit of data today to tell you what you need to stay in the front brake in a amateur race like this, in a crucial hill climb, in terms of power to weight, and I'll show you some extreme data stalking to help you with that. And we'll talk about next weekend's race, which is a hill climb time trial. This is going to be talking about how you can use your data to your best advantage, riding and an analysis. Alright, so there you can see, looking at the screen, lovely photo by the wonderful Trina Iono of the final part of the race out on the coast. Hope you noticed the excellent sock and shoe game matching my kit. Very pleased with that. Alright, so let's look at some data from Saturday's race, the PNP Summer Series, brought to you by Tony Pick and Save. What do we have here? Check out distance, best out of 124 Ks, 123.8 Ks, moving time of 3 hours and 10 minutes. Climbing 929 meters. Hilly-ish, couple of hills. We'll talk about those in a bit more detail. We're looking at average speed of 39.1 k an hour, which for this course is pretty fast because the conditions were beautiful. Average heart rate, we got 144. There's a tale of two halves this race. Effective power 301, so pretty low power overall. You know, a real classic road race scenario where some places you needed to just reserve energy, some places you really need to go, and you needed to know when you need to go. And I'll show you what you need when you needed it. What do we burn? 2,750 kilojoules, I'm going to say, just on 10 hamburgers. It's pretty significant. So this, for a amateur club race here in Wellington, is a pretty long event. And if the weather was bad, it would have been maybe a different story, but the weather was good. If you ever have a chance to do this ride where you go over down towards the little settlement of Naui on the south coast by Cape Palliser there, I strongly suggest you do on a nice day because it is stunning. It's weird, like if you go over, there's certain places, and I don't entirely understand why this is, where the sea is really blue and lovely. It may just be because the weather conditions on the day, like the sky is really blue and it's reflecting that. But I swear to God, maybe it's the depth of the water, I don't know. It's some beautiful, amazing colours out there. Geez, pretty wild part of the coast on a bad day. On a good day, it's very different. So, give it a quick rundown of the race here. We look down here at the data. You can see all the way down, travelling south, down Lake Ferry Road. Best part of an hour, going along at 39 k an hour, the pack was moving together. Look at this power. What was I averaging? 190 watts. It's basically almost barely turning the pedals over. Really, nothing happening, and everyone was reserving a bit of energy. Some movement up the first climb here. Most of the decent riders stayed together all the way down the coast here. The turn at Wowee, where there was some gravel. Really, if you come across a gravel section or something like that, and it's a little bit unexpected, the best thing Because, this is an old mountain bike thing. You can see the mountain bikers like me and Callum Kennedy and these guys were pretty relaxed on there, and some guys sort of freak out and swerve a bit. Just hold your line, and your wheels might move around a little bit, and you may even go into a pothole, but generally if you just try to absorb that impact and hold your line, it's the best thing you can do on gravel. Because of course if you start swerving and trying to swerve around things very quickly, of course that's when you're going to lose traction and bad things will happen. We turned around and we came back. So here's where the pressure started. Everyone knew, if you're looking at the course here, everyone knew this hill here, Cape Palliser road climb, the steep side coming back around 75 k's into the race was going to be decisive. Two reasons. One, everyone's got 75 k's in their legs by then, and even if it hasn't been that hard, dudes are going to be, they've exerted themselves a bit. And secondly, because it's a reasonably steep climb, and it comes 2/3 of the way in, so it's always going to be decisive. So the race did split there. About 9 of us split the group. I'll go into who that was in a minute. And it was very clear from the data on that climb exactly what you needed for power to weight. I'll tell you what that was in a sec. As far as the rest of the race went, we lapped it up pretty well. Classic road team racing tactics played in. Anthony Nalder had been up the road by himself since the first few k's of the race, and his teammates, most importantly Dave Rowlands, were sitting in behind us as the other 7 riders also did all the work lapping it out on the front, which is completely normal and completely fine road racing. In fact, I wasn't really sure if Anthony was in their team, so I went back at one point, said to the other guy, "Oh, are you guys working for someone?" They said, "Oh, we're working for Anthony, not doing any work." It's like, yep, that's absolutely fine by me. That's what road racing is, chaps. That's how you do it. So you've got a couple of super strong guys, including probably the most strong guy in the race, basically being towed along by everyone else. That's great road racing. We worked lapping it out in medium strength, was pretty strong strength all the way back, and unfortunately caught Mr. Nalder about 5 kilometres before the line, so he did a very strong performance. And of course, like clockwork, Dave Rowlands attacked down the side. About the only person strong enough really to get his wheel was Brendan McGrath, so he did. Brendan and Dave time trialled up to the line, and about 100 metres ahead of this. And in the end, I hear from Brendan that he tried to do a move which was come from behind and surprise him a little. I don't think that really worked. Dave was strong enough to pull him back and win for the second time, so congrats in the bunch between us all. We were led out a little bit by Callum Kennedy, who I was watching because he's in the same age grade as me. He got his wheel, towed up to the line and came around him. And just before the line, who could be coming off my wheel to come round me and take it ahead of me on the line? Anthony Nalder, like a savage, who'd been away by himself for that long, completely burned out, showing what a classy rider he is, taking the third, me in fourth, and the other guys behind. So a really interesting race, a lot going on tactically, good and long. I think there's a really good place for these slightly longer races. I think as long as the weather plays along, it's generally a really good idea, as long as it's in the right place, because there's a certain thing which happens, which is in any race, just a really big lot of people can handle 80 Ks. Anyone can sort of guts it out for that long, but as soon as you start to get 80, 90 Ks, maybe 100 Ks is like the point where kind of just the fatigue builds up. I mean, even if it hasn't been really hard, a lot of guys, the fatigue builds and they just can't do it anymore. Maybe they just don't train for longer than that. I mean, I hardly ever train longer than that. Maybe they're not training hard enough within that. I don't know what it is, but the fatigue builds, so don't handle it. So it's sort of a different type of race happens when you go over 100 Ks in one of these sort of club races, and that's exactly what happened on the weekend. So here's something I want to show you. So let's go back to two things. I want to show you briefly in this little Strava comparison tool I like to use all the time. I created this segment, 2018 PNP Summer Series Race to Grand Fondo. If you go and have a look at the race, you'll see that there. That's one I created so we could sort of compare exactly what happened amongst riders across the time frame of the race. If you're looking at the screen, what you're going to see is a purple line superimposed over the course topography, and that's Anthony Norder. You can see he broke away, what is that, about 10 kilometres into the race, strongly went up the road, and within, you can see here, within another 10 Ks or so, he'd pulled out about 3 minutes on the bunch. We weren't working very hard, but he must have been working very hard to do that. From the top of the main first climb to the start of the main second climb, he maintained that at about 3 minutes, 3:13. He may have been getting time checks or something, and figured that that was maybe about the buffer he needed, where he's working, I guess, hard enough to, keep that up, but not so hard that he's going to blow. So I'm guessing that's why the line looks like that. Really good tactic. I mean, that seems very sensible. You can see the second time over the steep side of the climb, he lost from the bottom of that to the top of that, so in the space of less than 2 Ks, a minute or so. And then from there till about 5 Ks till the finish, his lead came down and catching him. There you can see exactly the catch point, about 119 Ks into the race, something like that. That's where we caught him, and that's where the attack came from behind, whereas teammates were being towed. So that's a good little tool to use. You could also use this tool, of course. If you scroll down, you can check out what the status was of any of the riders at any time in the race. So let's have a look at another thing, which was, let's look at what happened on the climb. So this is, as I said, if you're looking at the topography here, this is roughly 75 Ks into the race, coming back from the coast, going back over Cape Palliser Road climb. The segment is, it's about just under 2 Ks or something, medium steep gradient. You can look at this segment if you want. I mean, I think its average is somewhere about 7 or 8%, and it's pretty consistent. At that level, over about 5%, your power to weight really starts to become important. So we'll just do a quick analysis on what they look like for this climb. We started the climb, a big group of good riders together, probably over 40 riders, and it snapped on this climb. You can see exactly where it snapped, about halfway up the climb here. If I hover, maybe in the bottom third. The reason I'm using this data is this is the person, Samuel, who made the second group. So you can see that from the bottom, where we're all together, to the top, that group, we're only talking about 10 seconds or so. But 10 seconds on a hill doesn't look very much in terms of distance, but when you straighten that road out, when you flatten it out, 10 seconds could be more than 100 meters, and a lot's gonna happen in that time. Whether or not, guys are going to want to work to close that gap, there's questions being asked and stuff like that. So there you go, 10 seconds was all that was needed. So it's not a huge difference in power to weight for that 10 seconds, but at the right place in the course is super critical. So this is where it broke up. This is where me and the other 8 riders or so went up the road. So you can see, by the way, that time gap between the top of the hill and the final blew out to 5 minutes. And that's just the power of having a group of motivated guys up the front to stay away, working reasonably well together. That's all it is. So that blew out quite a lot. So let's have a look at what the power to weight differences were. So this is the benefit of everyone having their power data on Strava these days. You can go into the individual segment or the individual person's power curve. Everyone's got their data input, and you can see for this part of the climb, this is my data here. That climb was 5.6 watts per kilo. Another person in my group had about 5.7, and little differences like that could be accounted for, your weight on the day and all this stuff. So we're looking at 5.6 to 5.7 watts per kilo, about a 5-minute effort up that climb to be in the selection. That's if you want a bigger picture comparison, someone who is a world tour level, very good climber over that time frame can probably put out over 7 watts per kilo. So, there's a big difference between amateur club racing and pro level stuff. That 1 to 1.5 watts per kilo doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're already looking at people who are very powerful and very lean, there's not a lot to shave from each part of that equation. It takes a lot of time and dedication and effort and natural ability to be able to get there. Anyone who can push over about 5 watts per kilo for about 5 minutes is a pretty good club level climber. And if you can push 5 watts per kilo for 20 minutes on a very long climb, that's excellent. And that's the reality. People look at the numbers of guys who are pros and guys who can compete in big races, and they're over 6 watts per kilo. That's not the reality unless you're training 20 plus hours a week, hundreds and hundreds of Ks. That's your only job. You're certainly not going to a job in a bank for 8 hours a day and trying to cram in riding either side of that. For those normal people like you and me, that's going to be 5 watts per kilo people. So 5 minutes, 5.6 to 5.7 watts per kilo. It's pretty strong. So that's what it took to stay in the group. What about the guys who fell away in the second group for exactly the same period of time? About 5.3 watts per kilo. So be in the group, be in the selection, 5.7. Out of the selection, 5.3. That's a pretty tiny difference. And of course, it only was worth 10 seconds, but that 10 seconds was crucial. So what are the two parts of that equation? Power and weight. Now, the problem with all of that is you can say quite easily you can increase your power. You can say quite easily you can decrease your weight. But when you start getting marginal, i.e. you're already pretty lean, under about 10% body fat, or you're already very powerful, those things don't come very easy. So just have a look at what it would actually take for someone who's, I just did a little bit of quick and dirty math before. What would it take for someone who's 69 kilos, who's putting out 360 watts or so for this 5-minute climb, giving them about that 5.3. So what would it take to get that extra little bit, that extra boost, that extra 0.4 watts per kilo to come in the front group? Well, in terms of power, it's about another 20, 30 watts, something like that. And in terms of weight, you have to take off about 4 kilos. Of course, you can do either or. You can take off 4 kilos and have it. You could add the power and have it. Or you could do sort of half and half. As I say, that's not necessarily easy. And a little equation I like to think of with this is, a lot of guys say, well, I want to lose weight. Well, what they mean by that is they want to keep their muscle mass or even increase it and reduce their fat mass, and that's fine. Well, how do you know you can even do that? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to determine what your fat percentage is accurately at Finland. We do that with calipers and with the Tanita scales. You may find that you're already very lean. You may need to increase power. You may not be able to increase power. There's all sorts of analysis you need to do before you go and announce to the world you need to lose weight. I mean, there's a good chance that if you lose weight, it may be coming off muscle. You may end up worse off just from this some extreme dieting than you would have been otherwise, and your power to weight equation will suffer, and your gross power will suffer. Point is, determine what you're actually trying to do, have some evidence for it. So let's take a 69 kilo guy, and let's assume that he's 8% body fat already. And let's assume that he wants to take off half of that difference, 2 kilos in weight. So 69 kilo guy wants to come down to 67 kilos. Wants to keep and add a little bit of power at the same time to come up to this sort of 5.7 watts per kilo. Well, if you look at that, if this person was 100 kilos, 2 kilos would be 2%, right? Well, he's only 69. So it's closer, much closer to about 4%. So this person is trying to lose about close to somewhere between 3 and 4% of their body mass in fat. You don't want to do it in muscle because your power will come down. You want to do it in fat. So let's go back. He's already 8% body fat. What's that? Minus 3%, 6%, maybe down. What am I going to say? 8.65. Yeah, so he could be coming down to 5, somewhere between, trying to get to somewhere between 4 and 6% body fat. So, and that's only taking off the 2 kilos of fat. All right, so this is a person who's already very lean. 8% is very lean. For an amateur cyclist, that's very lean. It's about as low as you get. So this person walks into the room and announces they're going to just get skinnier to improve their watts per kilo. What does that mean? Do the analysis. What that means is coming down to a totally unsustainable level of body fat. Getting down to 4 to 6% body fat, unless you are extraordinarily talented, genetically unusual, is going to not only affect, it's going to affect your mood, it's going to affect your endocrine system, it's going to affect so much more than just, thinking that you're going to be better on the bike. So that person really needs to add power. Maybe they can take a little bit off if it doesn't affect those things, but more than likely they're going to have to try to add power. It may already be that they're really as powerful as they can be. I would suggest to that person, really looking deeply into their muscle mass percent, the gross muscle mass, and then they would need to determine whether there's any muscular adaptation they can do from weight-bearing exercise in the gym to boost that muscle mass, to find more power. There may be a way to get more aerobically efficient, but then you need to know, okay, it's just like doing the fat thing. Well, what proportion of their VO2 max are they operating at lactate threshold? And I know that sounds super nerdy, but what that means is how your VO2 max, think of that as kind of like a ceiling on your aerobic capacity. It's very hard to shift it. What proportion of that can you hold for long periods of time? You might already be very high. You might be 80, 85%, 90%. Well, this all becomes a problem. And it can't always just be solved by announcing that you're going to get skinny or announcing that you're going to get more muscle. What's the third option? It's kind of what I did, which was look at your data, get your coach to look at your data and analyze what you should be doing in this sport. If your motivation is doing well in it, getting good results, it could be you need to actually look at the events you're doing and change. That can be hard when you invest a lot of time and effort and all that into a certain sport. But then again, if your motivation is truly intrinsically to do well, you might need to change from a mountain biker to a time trialist like I did. Doesn't mean you can't do one or the other. It just means you have to be honest about what you're good at. Two things. Be honest about what's intrinsically motivating to you, whether that's just competing or doing well. And secondly, know the analysis, know the data. This is all stuff that I live for and love doing with all my clients. I super get into it. And it's always good to help people do stuff that makes them happy. After all, that's what the sport is about. It's making you happy. There's a lot of suffering on the road, but it also kind of makes you happy. So that was the sort of the thoughts I had about the PNP race 2 and some thoughts about that particular part of it. Pretty crucial. If you ever want to talk about this sort of stuff and talk about your point of your cycling career, or you're thinking about some sort of plateauing, go ahead and chat to me, guys. Right, so the third race in that series, by the way, if you go to pnp.org, you'll see it's the Big Daddy. Now, it's not long, 90 kilometers. It's called the Rice Mountain Classic, and it's a super hilly course, 90 or 95 k's or something, over in Wairarapa, finishing on Admiral's Hill, the biggest climb over there, and it is somewhere around 1,800 meters of climbing, crammed into that relatively short race. So, we're talking about power to weight. Hopefully that will be some useful information for you for a race like that where everything will happen on the hill, no doubt. The race next week, this weekend, is on Sunday. The Wellington Masters Cycling Club are hosting a Hillclimb time trial from Waikanae to the top of the Akatarawas. This side is kind of tale of two halves. If you're doing this race, go to WMCC website, go to the club calendar, check out the course, and I've done this one a number of times. In fact, I'll tell you, this is the course where I kind of made my comeback. I was a mountain biker in my teens and early 20s. I went away, had a career I hated in banking, and then I came back to cycling, and this in about 2008 or 9 or 10 or something was the little event I did that got me all moist again for cycling. So what you got is a start where it's flat and it's kind of rolling, and there's these rollers and it's very stochastic, and then you hit the climb. Now about 5 kilometers into this TT, the climb is a very long FTP power to weight climb. It's going to take you about, at race pace, somewhere in 15 or minutes or something like that. Bottom to the top, obviously, if you're a slower rider, it could be into sort of half an hour, something like that. Here's my tip: you want to not burn out in that first sector, so I suggest you take a lightweight road bike first. I wouldn't ride a TT bike, specialized TT bike. You can, you've got to suffer from the climb. Depends how good you are on TT bike. I would go with just a lightweight setup on a road bike. You're not going to need any water bottles or anything like that. You're going to know what power target you're going to have if you've got a power meter on that first flat sector, and you are not, Sonny Jim, going to burn yourself out on there. I don't want to see you sprinting like a maniac up those tiny little rises and bits where it ducks and dives before the main climb. Be controlled. Know your VO2 max. Hop onto that or just a little above. You do not want to have burned too many matches before that main climb. On the main climb, it becomes a much easier equation. If you're running power meter, you just need to know pretty much your FTP. You need to have a good target on there. And you just need to sit there in a nice, open hip angle position, breathing deeply, paying attention to your power target. Know where the finish is in the distance, and be prepared to maybe give a bit of a kick in that last 500 meters to 1 kilometer. It sounds late, but 500 meters or a kilometer when you're going uphill, it's quite a long way to go. That's what I would say about doing a good time. Maybe give a jacket to the guys. We're taking a cut at the top, because when you ride down, unless it's really nice weather, it might be chilly. Maybe a bottle as well. That's what I'd say about that. I have, famously, in that race I mentioned a few years ago, Rob Kilvington was always a guy I used to race against a lot on the mountain bike, and he and I, in that race, had exactly the same time. I'm not kidding. I think I beat him on paper by about 1/10 of a second, so I was the winner, in inverted commas, but there's every chance that that 10th of a second could have been like, just because, you know, it could be 1,000 reasons why that happened. You know, the person who was on the stopwatch might have, their finger might have moved a little bit slower, so let's call that a dead heat. A guy like Rob is always very good Masters rider on a hill climb like this. But it's TT, I think anyone can come out, check the rules. if you would like to see what your power to weight is truly like on a climb, get a sense of what you're capable of, a little event like this is a really good one to do. Alright guys, I hope that was useful. I'll leave it there. As always, brought to you by Fit Lab. Tailwind Nutrition Biomaxa and Capital Sucks of you. A training plan from me. You can go to Steve. You can email me even, steve@fitlab.co.nz. You go to fitlab.co.nz and I will see you on the weekend.